Okay, so what did the sage have to say about the protests? Um, Now, the first thing I want to say is Mercury is in retrograde. So, and I am finding myself having a little difficult time communicating. So, if anything I say in here doesn't sit right with you, you hear it the wrong way, um, just rest assured that I didn't mean it the way you took it. If it has irritated you in any way, talking about these protests or the riots is kind of a touchy issue. So I'm going to kind of like just generalize and speak in a real general sense about it. So, what did the sage have to say? Now, why did I even check in the beginning? At first, when the protests started, the first couple of days, I really felt like, yes, this time it feels really good. Okay. It felt good and sincere and everything was in alignment. And then after a couple of days, week to, I guess into the second week now, I haven't really paid attention. I started feeling like, oh no, something's feeling off. Like the longer the protests keep going or were going, it was irritating me. It didn't feel now like sincerity, or it was like something felt off. And I just thought, why am I feeling this way? I was becoming annoyed, not annoyed at the protesters, but the energy was starting to feel out of alignment. And it was like, now the message was feeling like it was getting garbled and it was going in the wrong direction energetically, not what they were messaging or trying to accomplish. So this is why I just checked in. I just said, Sage, what is with these protests? Do you have anything to say about it? And once again, the message was perfect. Absolutely, I couldn't, anyway. The hexagram, and so what I do is I check in with the I Ching, get a hexagram, which correlates to a gene key. You can go look it up for yourself. And the hexagram / gene key that I got was, I'm shocked, once again, hexagram 35. 35 has been coming up ever since I've been checking in on the coronavirus and this whole COVID-19. It keeps coming up, 35. And its programming partner is the fifth hexagram, fifth gene key, which was the instigator or the underlying energy of impatience, which started this whole coronavirus thing. So these two are really playing out during this time. I'm just shocked that it came up once again. So the 35th, let's just speak about the gene key, what is kind of underlying all of these protests and even the rioters. So let me just speak to my feeling on the rioters. That is kind of like a separate issue from the protesters. We all know that. And in my opinion, my feeling is it doesn't matter whether the rioters are, what is the word I'm looking for? They're being paid to do it, or, it's another group doing it. The underlying reason that these people are rioting is based on the 35th gene key. And the shadow energy, for protesters as well, the underlying energy is the shadow frequency that Richard calls of hunger. And it comes from that he says that we are a species of unfulfilled people. Like, we can feel materially fulfilled, but deep inside of us, we are starving for that sense of fulfillment. Like, our souls are not being fed. And so it doesn't matter if these rioters were being paid to throw bricks, whatever their topical external ego issue thought process concept was for doing it. All of the protests and the rioters are stemming from this deep sense of being unfulfilled, that all of these individuals are unable to express their deepest inner unique soul gifts, their unique talents. They're not able to live the life that they truly want. Because if these rioters were fulfilled, they would not be taking the job to riot in the first place, right? So it's all coming from this energy of being totally unfulfilled as a species. And that sense of unfulfilledness, creates lots of chaotic energy. It leads to addictions, but it's really the addiction of looking outside of ourselves, whether it be food, gambling, anger, fighting, and to feel that sense of, oh, I feel good. And then as soon as that moment passes, we're hungry again, we're unsatisfied. And we tend to blame external circumstances and other people for our feeling dissatisfied, our unfulfillment in life. So this is the underlying energy that the sage is pointing to, that the rioters feel, and that has been, I think, how do I say this? The underlying current of the protesters that perhaps have led them, I have to be really careful here, that feeling of being unfulfilled, dissatisfied, feeling disadvantaged. And I'm not saying that there isn't a reality of disadvantage going on. There totally is. But when you identify with that, as that your life is unfulfilled because of something else outside of you, then it kind of, right, it creates an energetic frequency that will draw in complementary energies to confirm and manifest those things in your life to keep you unfulfilled. So this is the underlying current of the protesters and rioters. I think I better stop talking now, because I may say something that will come across as insensitive, and I don't mean that at all. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the hexagram, what the sage has to say through the I Ching about the protesting. And I got 3 lines, which means there's 3 messages that go along with this hexagram. So hexagram 35, while in the gene keys it's called hunger and adventure and boundlessness. So the hunger is being totally dissatisfied in life. We are unfulfilled because none of us can really truly tap into our uniqueness. We can't express our uniqueness. We're kind of stuck in this reality that doesn't easily allow our individual expression and the ability to live the way our soul calling wants us to live. And then the adventure part is the big true adventure is that we have to turn within. The moment we find fulfillment from within, then we can express externally. Okay. Lost my train of thought. But the hexagram 35, it's called not hunger, but it's called progressing. And this is, this hunger inside of us is about, we constantly feel this need to evolve and express ourselves. I totally lost my train of thought. So that's why it's called progressing as a hexagram. You have to forgive me. Darn that Mercury retrograde. Okay, so I got 3 lines. So the first line, the sage was saying, yay, good job, protesters. In the beginning, you have reached an accord with the cosmos, because, and even the rioters at some level, because you came in alignment with your true self and kind of expressing this righteous anger. Enough was enough. Your soul, the soul of these protesters and even the rioters at some level, they were expressing some righteous anger. Now, how the rioters expressed it, maybe not appropriate, but still, it's that righteous anger that was coming out based on a alignment with your truth self, saying, whatever's happening in this world is not correct. My boundaries as a human being, what I'm witnessing other human beings is not right, and I'm mad as hell. Okay? Hello, that's Butter. He's the middle brother of Peanut Butter and Jelly, just to let you know. Okay, so at some level, the sage was saying, yes, progress is being made. Protesters were standing up for themselves. They were in alignment with their true self. But then things, now as we're going through these protests and trying to negotiate some changes, this is where the sage says we're once again kind of repeating history, because, you know, it's not like this is the first time people have protested. We're falling into the same trap, and real transformation cannot occur the way we're doing things. And let me see if I can just find the paragraphs that made sense. Let me see here. I'm hoping this is the paragraph. It says, mistaken. So this is trying to find an accord between two competing powers. Another mistaken idea of an accord is the idea that opposites can be balanced by integrating them. So these protests are trying to integrate two competing powers or ideas. So this includes efforts to integrate competing ideas within a society or culture. While a balance between these two competing powers can be created temporarily, keeping that balance is always like walking a tightrope, because the inner accord, which is based on the attraction between complementary energies, is lacking. So let me just continue on. A true accord occurs only when all parts of the psyche of these individual or competing groups are equally respected and included in the process. It says a similar mistaken idea is that an accord is to be achieved through tolerating what is wrong or by making compromises. Let me just continue on and then I'll talk about it. This line informs us that true accord between people is achieved through transformations brought about by the helpers of transformation. Transformations that totally change people's attitudes can be brought about by a person who asks the cosmos for help and then gets the ego in himself out of the way. Unlike changes which are brought about by leverage. So what he's saying is these two groups are trying to leverage some competing ideas, and they're trying to make external changes, you know, blaming each other and then trying to leverage these two competing ideas. And changes, all external changes, it doesn't matter what your situation. Maybe you're trying to lose weight, maybe you've got an addiction, whatever the issue is, this hexagram speaks to any external method you try to integrate in, whether it's, okay, now I'm going to exercise more or not eat that. It's not addressing the real problem. You're making outer changes when all changes can only be made through inner transformations, by changing the way you think, by approaching the issue from the basis of consciousness, and taking, if it's conflict with another, as in the protests, what he's saying is that these two groups have not reached an inner accord. They are approaching the problem. We are approaching the problem ego to ego. We're taking these mind-ego complexes and concepts and ideas and trying to find a balance between the two, and ego to ego will never work. And we're not taking in the fullness of the other group's we don't have, neither group is respecting enough the totality of each other's consciousness and psyche and where they're coming from. And they're not coming from a consciousness level, as well as not calling in the cosmos for help. Like, you've made your point, you made your statement. Now all egos have to get out of the way and, ask for help, right? Okay, I think I've made my point. What else did the sage want to say? He also says that the group can be looking at another and measuring the other group by standards of his own expectations, and this will also thwart any progress. Okay. And it says, this is a dangerous time because it's a warning. A person who seeks to make progress with another by confronting the ego in him directly only causes the other to lose face. And that's exactly what's happening. What each side is losing face, or one side is losing face, thereby arousing his hatred. So I think that's kind of, what I was feeling, that the longer these protests were going on, it was a constant, you did this, you did this, you did this, like point, just keep hammering the ego in the other group, the police. And I could just feel that more hatred was being stirred up, or anger at so it was just like, we're going nowhere, folks. That's what it was feeling like to me. So forgive me if I sound insensitive. I don't mean to. I'm just trying to see this from a different perspective, or to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I can't find the paragraph in here, but it also says that he was speaking to that when a group tries to make changes, this was so right on to the situation, that the group or a person coming from, if the group is attached and identified from past actions, attached to past actions, past injuries, past feeling disadvantaged or traumatized, attached to that idea from the past, that it also sullies the progress into real changes. And I think that's where, and of course, we all think, you did this to me. This is how we felt for 100 years. You've treated us like shit. I think we have to look, I think there might be some identification and attachment to that image that is maybe thwarting some progress. And he was also going on to say that there was an attachment, that the group has become so identified with a particular goal, like its every waking moment was all about this goal, this goal, this goal. We have to fix this, that it also sullied the water, that it became so ego focused on one thing that it doesn't allow the cosmos to work in its mysterious ways, that it was sullying the waters. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So I better end this now before I, say something. Anyway, so I found it very interesting, and I hope there's some way that, I don't know, somehow each group can, I don't know how it's going to happen. How do people, without an awareness of consciousness and spirituality, how will transformations really occur if they're not calling in cosmic help, or learning to stand back and see each other as, oh, you're playing a role. This is consciousness to consciousness, and I see your entire psyche. And I don't know how transformations are going to occur in that area. It's just a mystery to me. Anyway, okay, I hope that was helpful, and see you next time.